everyone. Welcome to Mastermind with Neil Schwartz. And our very, very special guest today is Angel Garcia from the San Fernando Valley area. Not too far from us, but far enough away where we get to pick his brain and learn all kinds of cool and interesting stuff. Angel, thanks for coming out today.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Hey, we just wanted to touch base with you. Can you, you're one of the youngest guys, I think, that we've interviewed for this in the last year or so. And, can you give us a Reader's Digest version of how you got started in this business and kind of got going?
Sure. So my dad's a realtor, or was a realtor, still licensed, but not active. He basically was a realtor as I was growing up. I always thought I was going to get into real estate. And when I turned 18, the real estate market crashed, or had crashed a couple years prior. So when I turned 18, I was 100% convinced that I was going to be getting started in real estate. But my dad basically said that that's not going to happen. It's like there was a bloodbath going on, right? I went to Santa Monica College, went to school out there, ended up gravitating towards a sales job, did really well in sales. And then I kept bringing back like sales accolades and bringing it back to my dad and asking him to see if he would let me get into real estate. Really what I wanted was for him to teach me how to get into real estate and kind of help me get started. But he wasn't going to do it. So I kept going to school and kept doing sales. But very quickly I started doing well. So I was working at LA Fitness, which, funny story, I think Mike wrote the scripts for LA Fitness because I think he's friends with the owners. And they were very, very similar scripts. So it was funny because when I got into real estate, I saw Mike's scripts and I was looking at the scripts that I was using at LA Fitness and they were almost identical minus, the changing some verbiage for gyms.
Sure.
But anyways, what happened is I started doing really well. Like my first month, I was number one in that club for sales. The following month, I was number one in like the region, then, Southern California, then the west side of the United States, then number one in the United States. So it was a quick progression. Every time that I would get up a little bit higher, I'd come back to my dad and say, hey, I did pretty good. You think I can get started in real estate? And he'd say, absolutely not. You're not going up against real salespeople here. Like, these comparisons really don't matter. Keep doing it and keep it consistent and then we'll see. So I kept doing it and I kept going up on those ranks. And every time I would get up to the next one, I'd be like, hey, Dad, how about now? No, keep going. Once I finally got to like number one in the nation, it was funny because I was like, I felt kind of like helpless. I'm like, come on, man. Like there's literally nothing more that I can do than number one in the nation. What do you want from me? Fine, go ahead and come on in. And then when I got in, I was super excited to get started in real estate. And I thought I was going to be getting like coaching, like straight on, like, all right, let's go knock on some doors. Let's go, make some calls together, something like that. He was doing flips, not necessarily too active in sales anymore because of the way the market was. But very first thing he did is like, all right, congratulations, you're in real estate now. This is a cassette from Mike Ferry, or like CDs and a set from Mike Ferry. Knock yourself out. And that was basically it. So he sent me to Mike, and then thank God Mike was around and taught me everything that I know.
I love it. Angel, what year did you start?
2013.
So you started in real estate just as we were climbing out of the recession.
Yeah. It was. I got licensed in November of 2012, and then got started in essentially like that December. So 2013 is usually what I. Got
it. And so you were following Mike Ferry almost from the very beginning, correct?
Yeah, as I was getting licensed, I actually went to my first Mike Ferry event. It was a superstar retreat, and it was just incredible because obviously coming from just about any other industry or any other regular job, to hear about people making $1 million, $2 million, hundreds of thousands of dollars was like not even attainable just about anywhere else.
So the number one, LA Fitness, right?
Mm-hmm.
The number one LA Fitness salesman in the country. What kind of money did you earn that year?
Nothing, man. It was terrible. I was supposed to camp out at about 120,000 a year or something. I only made about 60. The reason is because what they would do is they would increase the quota every time they hit a milestone. So I said, okay, great. Now you have to be able to hit 120% of what you hit the previous week or the previous month to be able to get that bonus. So it was kind of sucked.
So number one in LA Fitness, 60 grand.
Yeah, I've probably been on pace for more, but if I would have kept on with it, I would have probably made more. But at the end of that year that I was having all those increases, it was only about 60 grand. Maybe I would have made maybe 70, somewhere on there.
Right.
It was
Got
very
it.
good.
Got it. So in 2013, you went to a, or 2013, you went to a superstar retreat. I guess that was 2013. Yeah. You went to the superstar retreat and started to list and sell houses, work
Yeah.
buyers. What was your first year looking like?
Yeah, so my first superstore retreat was in 2012. It was before I got licensed, and then I got licensed at the end of 2012, like basically 2013, and that's when I got started.
Got it.
I got really lucky. So my first day, I was really excited to jump on the phones because the entire 6 months prior, as I was training for my license, I was already training on all the scripts because I was fortunate enough to go to that superstar retreat. So everybody's talking about script, role play, get all that stuff down. I jumped onto FizzBills the very first day I made calls, and I got a listing that next day. So my second day after making phone calls, I took a listing. And yeah, it was ridiculous. As soon as I did that, I was thinking, man, I'm going to make a killing in this business. I'm going to do a listing a day, no problem. That didn't work out.
So tell me what happened.
I did end up doing pretty well. I think I ended up taking 12 listings or doing 12 listings sold. Then I did 12 buyer deals. But in between that first listing and the next listing, it was probably another month. And it was, I was on from, my role play schedule was kind of insane. The first 6 months prior to getting licensed, that's all I was doing. I was only role playing. I wasn't even studying for my test. So once I got started, it was about 2 to 3 hours of role play a day. And then about 6-7 hours of calls or a little bit of door knocking a day. So you can imagine the amount of effort that was going in to get one listing. It was ridiculous. I didn't get my second listing until I think about a month or so after.
Got it. And was that also for sale by owner?
The second one was also for sale by owner, and luckily it was a cash deal too because it was a beat up property. So I recommended the buyer and the seller on that one.
Oh, wow. Cool. So the first year, 24 transactions, 12 and 12. That was full year was 2013. So first of all, congratulations. Not bad. 24 deals in your first year isn't bad. How did it progress from there?
Second year, I believe it was about 30, 36, right around there. I had a pretty strong progression up until about year 5, and then year 5, it kind of slowed down a little bit. So I think it was the 30, 36, the second year, about 49, I believe. The third, 78, the fourth, and I think 102 or 104, I think the fifth year, right around there.
Right. And then you started to slow down a little bit, huh?
Yeah, and then the last 3 years, the last 3 years have been hovering right around 100. So.
Yeah, pretty slow. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I like the trajectory that it was the trajectory before.
Exactly. But okay, so where did the deals come from? You're in the San Fernando Valley. It's a similar market to the markets that we're in. Past client sphere, just listed, just sold. Where did it come from, Angel?
So majority of it, the first year was for sale by owners and expireds. Second year, about the same. I would say the first 3 years were almost all for sale by owner expireds. I would get a couple that would come in from like maybe absentee owners, a couple that would come in from just listed, just sold, but the big bulk of it was really for sale by owners expireds. For sale by owners were pretty good. And then I think around about year 3 or 4, things got really, really tight because the market was just really aggressive. So on the for sale by owners, they were actually selling, which was getting kind of weird. And then I think Zillow also started getting pretty good at putting them out there, but then the rest started coming from expireds. Absentee owners, I think I got into maybe about year 4. And absentee owners have been a little bit more consistent because they don't go through the same ups and downs, which is kind of nice. Just sold has always been good for a couple of deals a year, but not been a huge bulk of the business.
Got it. How about past client and sphere?
Past clients and sphere is around about the same time, around year 4 or so, started becoming a bigger source of business. Right now, it represents about, I would say about 35% of the business, 40% maybe.
Got it. Okay. And when did you get, well, let me ask you this. When did you get your first assistant?
Well, luckily, my dad was still technically in the business, mainly in his flips and stuff, but he still had his transaction coordinator that was with us literally until about a week ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she recently took off and we parted ways, unfortunately. She married my uncle. So my uncle's
I
also
hate when that happens.
Yeah, my uncle's also a realtor, so I think she's doing TC work for him now.
He was a competitor?
Kinda. He used to work with me as well. He used to work as my buyer's agent, and then he went out on his own. And about 6 months after he took off on his own, he married my transaction coordinator. So
Screws up the business, huh?
He's not really like we're. It's not no bad competition or anything like that. We hardly ever compete. He really focuses on buyers more than anything.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Cool. All right. So let's talk about mindset. I mean, where did this come from where you were, trying to achieve at a really high level? Certainly as a young man, 18, 19, 20 years old, working at LA Fitness and then shifting gears into real estate. Your first year in real estate, what were you, 24, 25?
No, when I first got started in real estate, I was 19. 19, turning 20. I was like right around that. I think I was
when you got licensed?
When I got licensed, yeah.
Interesting. That was 2013. You were 19 years old?
Yeah. I'm 28 right now. So
just old. You're old, baby. You're old. Gee, yeah. It's over. Angel, it's over. You better just go home, take a nap. So you were 19 when you started this. So your dad was in the business, but a lot of our folks are in the business or doing different things like that. Where did this come from for you? Is it books you read? Is it a certain mindset? Did you watch a movie and get inspired? Talk to me.
So there's a little bit of a backstory there. So a lot of you guys might be familiar with Jim Rohn.
Of course.
So Jim Rohn had an enormous impact on my life. Luckily, I was exposed to Jim Rohn because I used to follow my dad around a lot as a kid, right? Because I used to want to go hang out with dad, go to work with him. I used to go over and just help him, do some of his door knocking and stuff, just walk with him during the summers. Luckily, the company that he worked at, or we work at, I work at now, is really big fans of Jim Rohn. They would have him come out. I went over to go to a meeting that they had where they actually had him come out to talk before he passed away. A couple of times, actually. I was 8 years old, and I was able to, and I still have my notes. I have like booklets of notes that I took, and that man changed my life. But he just inspired me to just always be looking to learn and to grow. And then I got hooked, and I literally, as I was growing up as a teenager, I was listening to Jim Rohn regularly. Then, finally when I turned 18, it was honestly, I kind of like just blew past this right now, but the reality is I was heartbroken that I realized that I wasn't going to be able to get into real estate at 18. I was 17 actually, because I graduated a little bit early, just because I was younger. But it was truly a bit heartbreaking to find out that I wasn't going to be able to, almost like, I felt like I wasn't going to be able to show the world what I was made of. Now that after so many years of listening to Jim Rohn and to throwing all this good content, I wasn't going to be able to put it to use, and it sucked.
Right.
When I was 17, I was kind of upset about that, and my dad was telling me to go to school. I actually had like a breaking moment where I was kind of upset, and I went out on my own at 17, and I tried seeing if I could go out and make it on my own, right? moved out, and it sucked. I didn't do too well. I was only like 17 or 18, but I had a pretty big head thinking that I was gonna somehow be a millionaire on my own.
I've never heard a 17-year-old have a big head.
Yeah,
That's really interestingly unique.
yeah. Well, anyways, I fell flat on my face, and it kind of sucked. I did run across a sales job and started doing well there, but the reality is that it still wasn't making too much money. My car would break down and I'd be out of money. I still had to pay rent and everything else. So it really sucked, and I got lucky that I hit like a breaking point and almost kind of like a low point, after being like head so big, so proud, thinking that I was gonna be able to do something so early. I remember sitting outside of LA Fitness, literally crying on the sidewalk. I was eating a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I remember seeing a really nice car pass by, and it looked like there was a business professional in it. And I remember thinking, I was like, man, that's a really nice car. And I'll share this with you because I want to answer your question as far as like where the drive kind of came from, especially very early on. What happened is I saw that car pass by. It was a really, really nice Mercedes. And I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, man, how much does that car cost? And I looked it up. I pulled it up on my phone and I looked it up and I was like, wow, it was an $80,000 car or something like that. And at that moment, I thought, you know what? Why would someone pay that much money for a car? It's like, probably at 900, $1,000 a month. If I have that kind of money, I wouldn't spend it on that. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, man, hold on, wait a second. I realized that I was putting my standards down. And I remember thinking that I was kind of almost letting go of my dreams, right? Like in that moment, I kind of said, I don't need that. I was trying to tell myself that and convince myself that I didn't really need it. And I'm sitting there having a peanut butter jelly sandwich because that's all I could really afford at the moment, right? It was before I started even doing well in the sales there. And I started crying. Just tears started coming down, and I started thinking, I'm like, man, I'm going to become a loser just with that little mindset. And I remember thinking that my entire future and all the stuff that I was so excited about was drifting away. And I made a decision right then and there. I almost made a deal with God, which I know you're not supposed to make deals with God, but I told him, hey, listen, if you can just help me see the opportunities, just see them, I will do whatever it takes to take advantage of it. I will not let you down. Just help me just see where the opportunities are that I'm missing right now. And that same day, I ran back into that gym and I said, I'm literally going to talk to every single person in here and I'm going to ask them who's interested in signing up for personal training. Excuse me. And that's where
that was the turning point for you.
That was a huge turning point.
Wow. So you were right at the precipice of falling off the cliff, of losing your dream, and you came back and used it as a supercharger to get you to the next level. Good for you. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. That's really cool. Really, really cool.
Yeah. Angel. That was a little bit long, but
no. It was good. My sense is it helped a lot of us. Absolutely. Angel, are there any days that you really don't want to work in the real estate business, but you do it anyway? Has that ever happened?
Never been where I didn't want to work in the real estate business. There's been days where maybe I didn't want to prospect. There's been days where maybe it was a little bit tougher, but
sorry, that's better. That's better said. Are there any days where you would rather not do your job, and it was difficult to get up or difficult to get started? That you run into that?
Yeah.
Got it. What do you do with that? How do you work through that?
It's tough, man. You have to just remind yourself of why it is that you're working and doing what you're doing. To me, what always helps me out is just put something on that's really strong that kind of puts me into the groove. So honestly, you guys have had Neil Weichel on here. I saw that on the archives. Neil Weichel's always been a big inspiration. I remember that first Superstar retreat, and I did this multiple times. That first Superstar retreat that I went to, I recorded that entire talk that he did that day. And I remember thinking man, this guy's something else, right? He's doing $3 million in income. I'm like, I can't, that's ridiculous, right? I'll listen back to those inspiring moments and it just brings me back to what I felt at that moment. So that I'm listening to Jim Rohn, because Jim Rohn always takes me really far back and simplifies the everything. I'll listen to old, CDs of Mike or old recordings, but that'll usually get me going pretty quick.
Very cool. Good job. Excellent. So you last year, 2019, you did how much business? How many closed transactions?
Last year, we did a 94 transactions.
94 transactions. And how big's your team now?
I've got 3 agents.
Okay. Buyers, listing, how do they work? How's that work for you?
Buyers, they used to all be buyers. Now they're basically trying to work sellers. So they're kind of getting started, which is why I want to get them on to your role plays and stuff. One of them is actually only doing buyers now. So basically what happened is the conversion was kind of weak for all 3 of them. And 2 of them were just interested in doing listings. So that's why their conversion was starting to go down. So one of them made him exclusive buyer's agent, and it's actually my brother, and he's doing phenomenal.
Good. So how many listings are you taking now?
I'll do usually about the last 3 years have been right around about the same. I've been hovering right around about 50 to 60 listings sold a year. And that's usually about 70 approximately listings taken.
So 70 listings taken and you're selling 50, 55 of them?
Usually about 55 to about 65. It just depends. It's kind of right around that range. The last 3 years have been very, very, very similar. The difference in them has been like the price points and then who I've been targeting.
Are you moving your price point up in what you're working on? Is that part of the strategy?
Yeah. So my strategy. So what happened is I like in 2018, that was my best year. 2018, I did 117 transactions. That year though was like I did a lot of condos and a lot of the low price point stuff. And what I noticed is, and I having a call with my coach, Tony Smith, and Tony was kind of like just poking at me saying, why are you working the low end stuff? You're a strong agent. You're a great agent. Why do you specifically target? Because I was targeting the lower price point stuff. I just thought it was easier. And I did that when I got started. But he kind of just changed my mind on it. It's like, you should be working the higher price point. So my price point went from 400,000 to about 600, 650.
Yeah, big jump.
Yeah.
But each deal was worth $6,000 more to you, huh?
Yeah.
Exactly. So 117 deals gets you about how much money in the San Fernando Valley gross?
I made 1.4 in that year. I'm doing about 1.4, 1.5 the last 2 years.
Can you eat? Is that enough money to eat?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay, right? Got it.
So I can live off of it.
So Angel, tell me about your work ethic. Tell me about your day. I mean, you're taking 50 listings. I understand you have a team. I understand that they do part of that stuff. But
they do mainly buyers. As far as sellers, they're just getting started on that.
Got it. Okay. But to take 70 listings and sell 50 is by itself a full-time job, right? How's that? What does your day look like? What are you doing? What is it? What time's your day start, by the way?
So my days will normally start around 6:37. Normally I'm just, getting up, getting ready. And then by 7:30 role play, 8 a.m. on the phones till about 11 a.m. follow-up, 12 o'clock lunch, 1 o'clock follow-up again, or any appointments. That's the typical schedule. Now, I will tell you right now, though, that my schedule is a little bit different. I mentioned to you before we jumped onto this, I'm doing a lot of flips. So that's the schedule that got to the business that I'm doing right now. Right now, I'm doing a lot more flips, and my schedule is a little bit different than that.
Got it. Okay. All right. So even with the flips you're doing, you'll still do 50 listings sold?
Yeah. That's the other cool part about it, that as you grow your business, it starts to snowball. So my business has snowballed, and even though there's a lot of time being taken into the flips, which we're doing a good amount of flips, it's not taken away from my listing inventory.
Got it. So 2019 was an okay year. You were coming into 2020 looking forward to a better year, I would suspect, right?
Yeah.
And then we hit March. What happened? How did you react to that?
I mean, the thing is that I came in with a lot of momentum. So 2020 was, at the very first quarter, came in really strong. Like I came in strong, as strong as a year as I've ever had. And when March hit, or like the shutdown hit, I was still running off of like all of the transaction, everything else that was coming in, right? So I didn't really slow down or feel the slowdown until really more about like getting closer to June. June is when it started to slow down for me, and then there was a little gap from June till about August, and then September came back in strong again. Because basically everything happens 3 months later, right?
Right.
So what I'm referring to is obviously in closings.
I understand. I
Yeah.
understand. How about in terms of did it affect you psychologically? You know, you're doing really well, things are happening really well, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, whoa, you know, where did this come from? It had to any sleepless nights, any worry about what was happening?
Well, I'll share with you where I got a little concerned. So the funny thing is that again, when I was going to, yeah, I noticed that the properties were still flying. I was still getting properties that are going 40, $50,000 above asking right when they were shutting everything down. So I was like, you know, there's still demand. The demand is there. They're just, you know, slowing us down. And you know, nobody I think knew at that moment that the shutdown wasn't going to be 2 weeks. You know, they were talking about it being 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and ended up, you know, months, right? So at that time, I'm like, no problem, no big deal. I'm still working. Let's go ahead and still do this thing. I can't believe they're making us shut down our office. Like it wasn't phasing me at all. About 3 weeks into it, I hit a panic though. So about 3 weeks into it, I hit a moment where I'm like, okay, wait a second, something's actually slowing us down here. What does this mean? Because you know the media and everybody's going crazy about how this is affecting the world. And then I started to think to myself, I'm like, huh, should I stop buying some of these properties? Because I was, you know, I was in the middle of buying a couple of properties and I'm already committed to them. My deposits in, I'm going forward with them. That's where some of my panic was coming from. It wasn't anything from the sales side, because on the sales side, there's always people that need to sell. And it sounds like there's probably going to be more of them now. So I was, you know, no problem, right? Where other people are going to slow down, I'm going to take advantage and do more. But I was more concerned on the flip side because I had money out there, and then I had flips that were they're in the process of getting built up. So that's where I really got scared. Luckily, you know, everybody knows what's happened the last couple of months with the market and stuff like that. So everything worked out, but that was a very scary moment for me.
Yeah, because you don't know what the values are going to be.
Yeah,
You can get hit very fast.
yeah. I wasn't planning on holding on to these properties.
Right. Good stuff. So, okay, Angel, um, what you've got new guys and gals coming in to your firm. Things are happening. You get phone calls all the time from guys and gals like myself with teams that good sales teams. What advice would you give us as we run through the finish line here at the end of the year and focus in on the first quarter of next year? What would you be telling us to do? What, you know, coach us on that. We're your team members. Tell me what to do.
Well, the first thing is that usually you always know the answer to your own problem. So what I always find, and what helps me out is I'll just look at what's happened the last 3 to 6 months, because it'll usually paint the, like, you know, show me the numbers, I'll tell you the story, right? I hope some of you guys have heard that saying. That's a Jim Rohn quote as well, right? Show me the numbers, I'll tell you the story. You show me the numbers as far as what activities you take in the last 3 to 6 months, and I can tell you very closely what you're probably doing in production this next 3 to 6 months, right? So that alone tells you what we need to do, right? If you look at the last 3 to 6 months, you'll see where you probably failed at or where you need to improve on. Or if you knocked it out of the park, let's double it. What can we do to do a little bit more, or what can we do to keep it consistent?
Okay, good.
So, yeah, it just comes back to the numbers.
All right. So you keep track of your numbers still?
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So you're turning your numbers into your coach. Who's your coach now?
Right now it's Ron Cronin. Tony
Okay.
Smith got promoted.
You got promoted. Maybe it was a promotion. Exactly. So Ron's you. So let me ask you this. I mean, since 2013, you role play almost every workday.
Yeah.
You
Monday
prospect.
again, right now my schedule's a little bit different. So
No, I get it. I get it. But looking back, what got you here was almost every day you role played, right?
Every single day, Monday through Friday, no, like just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Every single day at 7:30 a.m.
Okay, so from 7:30 to 8, you'd role play.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. And then can we say that every day you probably prospected? Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you prospected every day. So you role played every day, you prospected every day. How many appointments would you set in a week or a month?
My goal is always to set one appointment a day. Now you don't end up going on one appointment a day because you disqualify some of the appointments that you go on, but the goal is always one appointment a day.
Was it always one appointment a day, or did that shift at some point to one appointment a day?
Well, I mean, that was always the goal, especially when I first got started. It didn't start actually happening until maybe about year 3, but year 4. But one appointment a day started becoming very possible when you actually put your mind to it, right? Like if you say that you should be able to get one appointment a day, you'll find it.
So tell me more about that. What does that mean? I mean, we talk about trying to get one appointment, but when did you actually think, well, I can get one appointment, or I can get really close to it?
Well, I started basically prospecting with other people that were doing it. That's what gave me the belief that it could be done. And I'm like, man, if they can do it, why can't I do it? I can work on my scripts and I can get as good as them. Why not? If the only thing if they're doing it over the phone, especially, right? Like it's just communication. If they can communicate themselves better to be able to get one appointment a day, we're calling the same people, but how is he getting one appointment a day and I'm not, right? Like I used to, you had Eric Delgado on here.
Yeah.
Eric, me and him are really good friends. He was also someone that I linked up with at 20 years old, like my first 3 months in the business. And I just went over to go shadow him. I wanted to meet somebody else that was a young guy that was doing well. He was a good person to talk to. I linked up with Jim Sandoval as well. He's in our office.
Right.
And he was kind enough to let me just prospect with him from 8 a.m. to like 8 p.m. And I can see this guy getting 3-4 appointments, and I'm just over there trying to get my one appointment on the same amount of time, calling the exact same people. I would have a conversation with somebody that was an expired. I dropped the ball on it, and then I would see him get on the phone next with that same guy because we're prospecting right next to each other, and then he sets the appointment. And man, that would make me upset. I was like, how the heck did you do that?
So
that's where the belief kind of came in.
So let me ask you, Angel, what was the difference? What did you see the difference between, and I say this all the time, the top agent like yourself or like Jim Sandoval or Karen Bernardi or Neil Weichel, if they go behind even myself, if they go behind me and I get 2 leads, they're going to get 20 leads talking to the same people, kind of like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Angel, what's the difference?
Well, I think there's 2 things there. The skill is going to be number 1, right? But the skill, it comes in handy in different ways, because you're not just communicating better. What you're also doing is you're able to tell who's worth talking to. Right? Because as you start calling every single day, you notice when someone has that little pause when you ask them, when are you planning on selling? They have that little pause, like, you pick up on that. Your mind starts to tell, your gut starts to tell you, this is someone that's actually interested. People that are extremely skilled, that are always on the phone, they smell that, right? They know when to attack. They know when it's time to put it on for that person. And then when they notice that someone that's not interested, that's just going to take up their time, they move on to the next one. So then they can be much more efficient with their time. It's not just what you're saying and how you're saying it. It's also how you're able to pick up on what's happening on that call.
That's fantastic. I am going to pull that up. I've never heard it said as well as you just said it. It's about disqualifying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not just qualifying, but disqualifying and moving on.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, for example, and there's disqualifying while you're on the call, right? Right away, as soon as you pick up on someone that's not a real seller, you move on to the next one, or someone that's going to be wasting your time, you move on to the next one, right? But once you set an appointment, you work and you fight for that appointment, but you also have to make note that every person that you set up an appointment with that says that they want to sell their house isn't going to work out. So when you call them back and do the pre-qual, that pre-qual is super important. in some instances, you shouldn't even look at it as a pre-qualification. You should look at it as a disqualification.
Right.
How do I protect my time right now? This is for me to determine whether it's worth even going on this appointment.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And
Very smart.
it's huge for your mindset too, because one thing is I just wanted to get in front of people when I first got started, and I would just go on every appointment. I was a little shy to pre-qualify them and, ask them if they're interviewing anybody else. I was a little shy about that. But what I realized is that it was really affecting my mind, because I would go to a lot of appointments that were never going to sell, right? They were never going to sell. They weren't realistic, that whole thing. And it started messing me up because I started thinking that I sucked. I'm going on 10 appointments and only getting 2 of them, 10 appointments, getting 1 of them. But I was just going to meet with anybody that had a pulse. So, once you actually start disqualifying people, then you start realizing, no, that person never listed, they were never worth the time. So then, you start being a little bit more aggressive, and you start valuing your time a little bit more. You start putting more time with the right people. Everything starts to snowball.
Fantastic. Really, really well done. I was asking you when we talked originally, was there anything like a script or a dialogue or an approach that that's kind of a great go-to when it comes up? Boom, boy, I'm glad they brought that up, and you close on it or you identify it. Is there anything like that you mind sharing with us?
Yeah. So like for me, one of the things that, and it's not really, because I think you asked if it was an objection, right?
Right.
It's not so much that I have a favorite objection. What I have is a favorite scenario or situation, right? I love going over pricing. Pricing is always a lot of fun, because I think that's where the real strategic part of it comes in. And Mike has geared us up so well with the scripts that he's put out, because there's parts that I think that people sometimes miss on how good those scripts are. When you're going over the pricing with the seller, asking, like, first thing is you get to figure out where they kind of stand on the pre-call, right? You're asking about pricing. But more importantly, when you're actually at the presentation and you're talking to someone that's interested and they're within range of price, but they're still a little bit above, what you can do is make sure that you position all of your comparables before you go out accordingly. Mike gives you the exact order that you're supposed to be going over the comps. And I never understood that, right? I never understood that until, much later. And I wish I caught that early on. But what happens is the first one, the first comp that you're always going to go over is the one, like, you're almost complimenting them in a sense, right? When you're telling them, look, your house is better than this one, right? This one's a little bit better than yours. This one's almost identical to yours, right? And how you present those makes a huge difference. And I'll share with you real quick why. Number one is, you don't want to start off by telling them this house is way better than yours, right? Like, that's not usually the best way to start displaying the first comp, because that's when they're more nervous than you are. I can guarantee you that, right? They have someone that's basically judging their house almost, in a sense. So they're concerned, they're scared, this is a big move for them. You're there to help consult and help them out. If you can share the comps really well, you're going to get them as a client, and they're not going to fight you on the price. Your house is better than this one, right? We can both agree on that. Good. Right. The next one is now going to be a comp that's just much nicer. There's not even there's no comparison. This one's on a view. This one's got a pool. It's a larger square footage. It's got an extra bedroom. It's in a better part of the town, right? And it still hasn't sold. That's a key piece of it. Make sure it's a property that hasn't sold, and make sure that it's at the price that they want to list at. Or like if they mentioned it on the call before, or just something a little bit higher. That way you can keep control of the range that they're in. So you're telling them, look, your house is better than this one, right? At this comp, this one's nicer than yours, right? So you're kind of zeroing in their price, right? You're putting them in a specific range. And now you're giving them the comp that's very similar to theirs. But you being able to control that range with that second comp is the key piece of it. So that's always my favorite situation, because I feel like I can really consult with them, and there's no arguing the fact that they can't list at this price if there's this property has all these extra features, better, nicer, and everything else, and they're trying to list here.
Very smart.
How are they going to sell?
I appreciate that. It's a smart strategy. Thank you. Very, very cool.
That's my strategy. It's just that
yeah.
I never understood how powerful it was. I was just kind of going over comps, more so with the scripts, but not so much in the sequence and the order that he puts it in.
Right. Very, very. It's a great observation. Good for you. So what's your superpower, buddy?
I would say that I'm resourceful.
Tell me about that. What does that mean?
Um, I wanted to be good at expireds. I found the guy that was number one in expireds in our area, and I went to go shadow him and stuck with him. I wanted to get information on, let's say working sellers, or let's say on the pre-qual. I tried looking for the person that was best at pre-qual to teach it to me. I wanted to learn how to do just about any, this applies, right? Like anything that you want to learn, find the person that is king at that and go learn it from them. Be resourceful, go find the answers for the question that you have. Any problem that you're experiencing in your business, someone else has already solved. Find that person. You don't have to try to figure out how to solve that problem. Find the person that's already solved it for you and then just ask them. They'll give it to you.
Got it. That's great. Fantastic. Very, very good stuff. You open to a few questions?
Yeah.
All right. So questions for Angel. Questions for Angel. We got a few more minutes here. Who wants to go first? Hands. I don't see.
I have a question.
Please go, Tess.
Okay, so I really like the way you were describing as far as the pre-qual, because I know that pre-qual is very important, and the concept that you had mentioned that it's really more of you disqualifying them, right? And that's pretty good. Now, tell me more about that. Is it because you ask a lot of questions? And I don't know, you're listening a lot? Okay, so tell me more about that.
So to better understand the question, are you asking how I disqualify them or why I disqualify them?
Yeah, why? When is the point that you disqualify them and say, you know what, this is not the right fit? Because I think for you, you're making a lot of appointments, and for you only go to people that you will go. Am I correct? Right?
Yeah. So like, let's say, for example, if their time frame, if I know that they're not going to be making a decision till sometime next year, right? Then I'll tell them like, oh, okay, well, it sounds like we might be a little premature on actually getting together. Sounds like you might not be ready to sell until next year. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, great. Well, the good thing is that I can actually help you figure out where you're going to be at as far as value and give you a pretty close range. Because the reality is that any price that we go over today is likely going to be different with how aggressive the market is right now, right? So if you're looking at values for 3 months from now, it really doesn't matter for today, in other words, which is basically what I'm saying, right? So that to me is an appointment I really don't want to go on, but I still want to share with them and give them some sort of value. So I'm not just saying, I'm not going to meet with you, you're not worth my time. That's not the verbiage, obviously, right? I'm going to let them know that it might be a little bit premature. Anything I give you now really won't hold much value 3 months from now, because we're in a very aggressive market right now. The market is changing all the time. So I want to make sure that, I provide the value that you need, and also don't waste your time. And I always put it in that form. I don't want to waste your time, of course.
Right. That's good. That's awesome. Yeah. I think because we always think like, oh, okay, we have an appointment. And really what you're really doing is this really a client that I need to spend time, or I can go to the next one, which would be a solid appointment. Good point, Angel. Thank you.
Yeah. And you don't, because the thing is, you got to think about it, right? Like you have to be mentally aware when you're on those appointments, right? Like when you go on an appointment and you're giving it everything you have,
right?
It's a drain, right? It's a drain. Like it's a mental drain. So if you're giving it everything you have, you're getting, you're looking sharp, you're putting your suit on, all that time that it takes to prep up, you're doing your comps, all that work that goes in, not including the time that it's actually like when you're actually there, very time consuming. And then when you leave and then you realize that you wasted your time for an hour, right? And you're like, man, what the heck was I doing there? I knew this person wasn't on the list. I'm sure you guys have all been there, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's draining to you. It's bad for your mindset. Then you look at your listing appointment to listing taken, and it starts looking bad, and then you start wondering why you suck, right? And it's not that you suck, it's just that you made a bad call on which appointment you wanted to go on. So what happens is, let's say, for example, if we're working on our skills and we're constantly working on our presentation only, right? Because you see that you have a 50 appointments gone on, only 50% of them being taken. You start working and role playing the wrong things. You start role playing the listing presentation versus the pre-qual, right? You should be practicing on where you need the most help in, right? That's where you're going to get the most amount of growth.
Exactly. Thank you. Very
Great.
good point.
Good. Thanks, Tess. Great answer, Angel. Thank you. All right, Josie, go ahead.
Thank you, Angel. You're
Yeah.
very inspiring young man.
Thank
You
you.
said that you're doing flips and you've been doing it for a while. How many properties are you keeping for yourself so far?
Well, I was keeping a lot more properties recently. I started selling them because I'm trying to buy an apartment building. So essentially I'm selling almost everything I got right now to buy something, hopefully good size.
It's
But yeah, the flips are basically to build capital to buy something really big. And the thing is that I'm assuming that a lot of people here might be in LA. LA is a tough market because we got rent control, everything. There's deals in every market. However, I also think that there's more deals to find in possibly other markets. So I'm actually looking for a larger apartment building elsewhere. So that's
okay.
where I'm
Good,
at with
thank
that.
you.
Good. All right. Good question. All right. Who else wants it? Rosa, do you have
I have a question. Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, Angel.
Hi.
Hi, quick question for you. So most of your appointments came from lead follow-ups?
Yeah, most appointments end up coming from lead follow-up. It's usually not on the first call.
Okay. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Yeah, expireds are a little bit different. You get the appointment sometimes the first shot, but I find that the reality is, and I'm big on tracking. I'll tell you this much. So expireds, those are quick. You get a listing, the same day that you call, the next day, right? Other sources, and you guys can track this. Maybe your guys' numbers are different, but I find that the real fortune is in the follow-up, and I proved it by just looking at my numbers as far as when I generated the lead to when I actually closed and made money on that lead. The process, the entire life cycle was 10 months on average. So it takes 10 months from when you first make contact with that lead to when you actually get paid on that lead. So think about how good your follow-up needs to be in contact with people for that long. And this is all scenarios, right? There's people that sometimes need, they're 3 or 4 months out because their tenant is moving out, 3 to 4 months out because their kids need to get out of school. Make sure that you put your follow-up and stay organized and you keep up with them and be just as professional on that second call as you were on the first.
So how often did you follow up? Did you have a system for the follow-up? How often?
Yeah, well, Mike, I follow what Mike says. He's always kept it pretty simple. Whatever day that you guys schedule to, or like say, hey, let's follow up with me in a month. Okay, cool. I'll call you in 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay.
So that's basically how simple I keep it.
Okay.
Whatever they tell me, like to follow up with them, I cut it in half. And the reason, and what it is it's a check-in. It's like, hey, I just wanted to confirm that, that we're still planning on making a move in June. That's still the time frame. Okay, cool. And then I confirm, and then I'll go into different questions. And then you find that their time frame often changes, moves forward, or they're not interested anymore, and then I can take them on my list.
Right. Okay. Okay.
My
Thank you.
hit list.
All right, Angel. Thank you. Karen, did you have a question?
Well, I was just on the follow-up part. Are you sending them anything? Are you mailing them out stuff? Any details there?
I'm not doing too much mail. I was in the past, and I actually I stopped doing it. It was just kind of hard to manage. But what I was doing is anybody that I considered like a hot lead or someone that I was like a long-term nurture, just monthly, I was just sending them like a postcard of something that I sold that would be like in the area. But it's a little bit tough to manage, so I haven't kept up with that. But every 2 weeks, a video email with just a market update that just goes out to everybody in my database, and then they get added to that. So they see something from me. Every month I have a market report that goes out with like sales in their neighborhood. That's also an email. And the key piece of it is that I can see them looking at it. So if I see them like clicking on it or looking at it, then that'll trigger me to give them a phone call as well. So
Okay.
I have a question.
Additional outside of just calls, by the way.
Good job. Thank you. Go ahead. I don't know the name. I just see Nest 33.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Elizabeth Neal.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Angel. Thank you so much. I'm just wondering, can you give me some tips on how you would approach people that you want to mentor you, perhaps? Because, I mean, I've actually tried to contact some people, telling them like I'll shadow them, I'll help them out, for free if I could just, learn from them, and I haven't been very successful at doing that. do people just offer, I mean, how do you approach people that that you want to learn from? And do they just really say like, okay, I'll help you for nothing? Or
Well, I'll share with you an example. And yes, they'll help you out for nothing. People do generally want to help. The thing is that people need, like, busy people sometimes need to weed out the people that are actually interested in the people that are just going to waste time. At least that's the way that I think it is. I'll share with you a funny story. I reached out to Neil Weichel multiple times because he's, not far from me. Wouldn't respond or just said, no, I'm too busy in this. But I mean, every few months for a long time, I would reach out to him. And finally he just said, let's go ahead and jump on a call for like 15 minutes or so. And then we can talk about a couple of things. And man, was I excited. But it's just same way you would follow up with an expired. You just kind of keep following up and then just.
Oh, you keep bugging them. Okay.
I don't want to say bugging because, I'm being authentic. I'm saying, hey, listen, I would really appreciate some help. I understand you're busy, so you let me know on your schedule. I'll take you out to lunch, whatever. If I can bring value to you, please let me know. But it's just consistent follow up with them as well. And Michael Young too. Michael Young actually did charge me though. Michael Young charged me, I think it was $1,500 or $2,000 to go.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Shasha.
Thank you, Neil. Angel, really inspired, what you have done so far, and very strong mindset. I love that. But for sell by owner script, do you use verbatim with what My Fairy script is? Or
yeah. Well, so for me, what I was doing is I would change the intro a little bit sometimes. Sometimes I tried playing with it. Now it's been a while, but I changed it from survey to basically just asking them if they had any current offers on the property. I would just change it and kind of play with it. But the reality is that it's not so. The skill part of it is in being able to continue the conversation and get past that initial no. So whatever you got to do to make sure you get past that initial no and then get into it, right? Start asking them the powerful questions.
Okay, because that with that script, when I got stuck with the word survey, I keep saying, who in the world wanted to
wants to do a survey?
Yeah. I maybe hopefully you have some words replacing the survey instead, since you do the for sale by owner from day one.
Yeah. Usually, like, let's say for example, as an opening, and I played with different things, but let's say for example, hi, I was calling for the owner of blah 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 blah. We're selling a lot of properties here in the neighborhood, and I saw your property came up. I was just curious to see how your activity is going. And then you can just open the conversation like that, right? So the first thing is that I'm saying that I sell a lot of properties in the area, and we work with a lot of buyers in the area. What happens is you keep them at least on the hook a little bit, just so that way they can hear if you have a buyer for their property. And then basically it's almost a little bit of a bait and switch where you're kind of just talking about their listing. So right. I played with different openings, but the thing is that you got to just test and then just track the responses. The key is just making the contact. The reality is that you're going to succeed based off of how aggressive you are and continuing the follow up. Same thing with for sale by owners. You follow up 2, 3, 4 different times when it almost feels like you don't have anything to follow up with, and that's where you really start to succeed, because everybody breaks off. They have that initial call, they get scared, or they get a nasty response, and then they don't want to talk to them anymore. But you call them again, and usually they don't remember who you are.
I know. So when you do the follow up within a week, few days from the initial call.
Well, let's say, for example, if you can tell that you're speaking to someone that's just like, I'm doing this on my own, put it out a week to 10 days out. If you're seeing that someone that's interested, that they're actually talking, call them that same afternoon, call them again in the afternoon and just let them know, I just want to see how your activity went today. We had a lot of luck on a property that we just sold over here. We actually sold it for above asking. I'm curious, I mean, if we can get the same results for you, is that something that you may be interested in at least hearing a little bit more about? So something along those lines, right? But follow up with them more aggressive based off of where you hear that their interest level is, right? Like if they're communicating, someone's going to get them. Like if they're willing to even stay on the phone, someone's going to get them.
Right. Thank you.
I want to try and make a point here. I want to try and make a point here. Angel, you make it sound simple and you make it sound easy, okay? However, you're role playing 4 or 5 hours a day for 6 months, and then you role play a couple hours a day for 3 or 4 years. You know the scripts and dialogues, and you dance with the questions. It's not what to say. It's you already have the skill set. Unfortunately, so many of us want to skip that step.
There is no skipping that part.
And what's interesting, Angel, I haven't done this, but I will make it my business to do it. I think this is true. On all 45 or now 46 people we've interviewed, every single one of them, without exception, and all of them make in excess of $1 million a year, know their scripts and dialogues, what to say and how to say it at the highest level. Every single one. And what are we trying to do? Skip the step. Something wrong with that.
There's a lot of people trying to sell you on skipping that part of it. Right?
Yes.
There's a lot of people that'll say, automation, technology will bypass all of that. No more phone calls, no more talking to people. How are you going to sell a house without talking to somebody? As a matter of fact, I think your communication skills need to be even better, because now you can't just smile and get in front of them right now, right? You have to be able to communicate through a Zoom meeting or through just a phone call to still be able to get listings signed. And here's the key piece of it that I thought was crazy, because as I was preparing for this call, I was looking at the little notes that you sent me about questions that may come up, and I was thinking about COVID. I'm like, man, because I think one of the questions was, how do you adapt, or how did you deal with COVID? COVID's been amazing. Honestly, it's been amazing because of how efficient things have gotten. And the reality is that the people that are really skilled, that can have the conversations over the phone or through a Zoom meeting or just be able to sell in this type of platform, are doing great. I know for me, I've taken more listings without ever even having to see the property than I've ever done. I didn't have to see the property. I didn't have to meet with the sellers. It's just that simple. But it comes back to skill. You have to be able to put the time in. The only difference between yourself and, let's say, a Neil Weichel or a Neil Schwartz, there's a lot of different, there's a lot of differences, but one of the biggest is going to be the skill level, right? The skill level is the biggest thing that's keeping you from what you want to accomplish, at least in this business.
Yeah, it's great thoughts. All right, unmute yourselves, everyone, please. Unmute yourselves. Everyone, unmute yourselves. Angel, let's give a big hand. Woo! All right. Fantastic, man. Fantastic. This is.
Thank you.
I told you you'd blow them away.
Hopefully, I
Thank you so much, Angel.
It was really, really good stuff.
Thank
Angel,
you.
we're going to take a few minutes now, and typically what we do is we review what we feel we learned from this. You're welcome to hang around, but if you've got a hard stop and got to go, we understand it. But we're going to go forward with that. Angel, again, thank you so much for your time. We really
Angel.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
One last thing.
Can we
I
get
actually
his info so we can refer to him in San Fernando?
Yeah, Miriam, could you post Angel's information in the chat box, please?
Thank you.
There it is.
you,
It's
Andrew.
there. It's there, Shasha.
Thank you.
I was going to share one last little thing. I think somebody asked, how do you follow up with people? This is one thing I'll share with you guys real quick. Just one last little point. Make sure to hit everybody by, air, land, and sea. Follow up with everybody, especially right now. Hit them in every possible angle. What I mean by that is call, text, and email. Call, text, and email. Go to their door. Hit them in every possible way that you can. If you know someone's truly interested, hit them in every possible way, because not everybody responds to phone calls sometimes, especially now because of all the spam calls and everything else going on. But you'll find that you're going to have a much better response when you're hitting them from every angle. You're going to get more people on the phone or more people to communicate with you. And other people aren't doing it. They'll only have, everybody wants to be a one-trick pony. They want to just do only text, or they want to do only call, or they want to do only email. If you can do it all. So that's a little point. Hopefully that helps.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you. Appreciate your time, your effort, and energy. Woo! All right, Angel. Good job. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a couple minutes right now, and I want to know what you learned what you learned in this last hour. We spent an hour with Angel. Fantastic. Great information. What'd you guys learn
Can I share
today?
something real quick?
Sure.
Yvonne. Yeah,
ahead.
thank you so much, Angel. You're amazing, really, so young, and you just blow us away. I really want to thank you. What I learned from you today is how to disqualify those people we're talking to, how to pick up something right away, you know, determine who is worth talking to. That takes skill and practice. I know, that's great. And also the comparable. You just brought to my attention. I never realized how powerful it is. You know, when you go comparable, always go, your house is better, and this house is better than yours. This house is identical. I never realized how powerful that was until you explained to us. Thank you so much.
All right, good job.
I definitely refer to you. You are powerful.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne. Thank you. Go ahead.
A
Jake.
note on that. What's that?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say one other thing that I mentioned that I forgot to mention on that presentation. So say this one's better than yours. What I do is I usually try to bring myself into that experience a little bit because I want to let them know that I'm with you. I'm on the same side. So instead of saying, you know, this one's better than yours, I say, well, this one might be a little bit better than ours, or this one is a little better than ours. I'm sure you'd agree with that. So when I say ours, I'm basically saying we're in the same team here.
Got it.
So
Great.
that's
Very,
all.
very subtle, but powerful. Good stuff. All right. What else did we learn today? Thanks, buddy. What else did we learn today? What else?
Follow up super hard. Stay on it nonstop. Follow up.
Land, air, and sea. I love that. It's right following Veterans Day. Land, air, and sea. All right. What else do we have? What else did we learn today?
His mindset is so strong ever since he was young. That's really, really good. I mean, everything else, mindsets is over anything, I think.
A big help, no question about it. What else did we learn today? What
I
else?
think, Neil,
Yes, Deb.
because he has practiced his script, memorized and internalized, he has the power to really be in control of who he's gonna work with.
You're right.
That's the best part. Now, instead of, you know, how instead of the client choosing us, he's the one who says, you're my client.
Right.
In other words, I will disqualify you because if you're gonna waste my time, I think he also mentioned that his time is more important, more than anything.
Right.
And as a realtor, sometimes like us, it's like we will give all the time in the world to our client thinking that this is, you know, a client who will list, right? Yeah, I
No,
think I love it.
You're right,
He's very smart.
100%. I think there's a great lesson there. Absolutely. Okay, other questions today? Thanks, Tess. Anyone else? Pretty powerful stuff. I try to listen to these soon after they're posted, but in this case, I will listen to this and I will cut and paste some of the points because he makes it really simple, really simple. You know what to say and how to say it so that that's your strength, so you can determine on who you're going to do business with. Because you're right, Tess, we spend way, way, way too much time working with people who are never going to close a transaction with us.
And then we can't move on.
Right.
Like we're thinking we still have them.
Absolutely.
Exactly
Absolutely.
what Mike says. You have so much lead that you lose the good ones.
Absolutely. Okay, everyone. Good work today. Thank you all.